What is going on, everyone? It's Justin here, and today we're going to be talking about the iPhone 12 on the channel for the first time. So a couple days ago, Apple announced the iPhone SE 2, and that was obviously very exciting. I ordered mine, it is on its way, and we're going to be reviewing that, and also, as I promised, giving one away. So just make sure you subscribe to the channel and have your post notifications on to look out for my review of that. But with so many new features we expect, I want to hear what you guys think in the comment section down below as to what feature you're most excited for or want Apple to do, whether it is realistic or not. But what I'm personally very excited about is the iPhone 12 design, which kind of got more and more confirmations in the last week thanks to Max Weinbach, Everything Apple Pro, and I think this is going to be the best looking iPhone to date because even though the iPhone 11 Pro's design doesn't really have any issues with it, it has fundamentally been the same for the past 2 years. In this video, we're going to talk a bit about the design, the details, as well as what we know about the camera and the internal chip. And just to summarize, we're going to see a 120Hz display, as well as a flattened edge and front, 40% smaller bezels, and of course the quad camera setup on the back. So for starters, we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer for this phone. It's gonna come out in November as opposed to September or October, and that is thanks to the delays of the virus and the production line issues. There's a lot of parts that come from a lot of different places, so it is bound to be affected in some sort of way, so the phone is just gonna be pushed back a little bit. So the first thing is the design, and personally I've been a really big fan of the iPad Pro's design since it came out in 2018, and this is essentially gonna be like a hybrid of the iPhone 11 Pro line as well as the iPad. And it's gonna have like the frosted matte back with the glass, but on the sides it's going to have aluminum that is going to look a lot like the iPad Pro, nice and flat. The front is also going to be flat, and in terms of thickness, it is going to be 7.4 millimeters compared to 8.1 millimeters, and the bezels are going to be down in size up to 40%, down to 1.5 from the 2.5 that we currently find on the iPhone 11 Pro line. Because of the reductions of the bezel, the display is also going to be larger at 6.7 millimeters, and the phone itself is also going to be a bit wider and a little bit taller as well. So in terms of battery life, I don't think there's going to be any worries. Right now, the iPhone 11 Pro has the OLED display that wraps around the edges and to the bottom to just give it a very nice seamless look, and that is thanks to the 2.5D glass. And because it is going to have a flat front, I feel like the surface area on the inside is really going to be maximized. And in Everything Apple Pro's video, he also mentioned that the chip design and the logic board is going to be on the top, giving the battery more of a square space as opposed to like an L-shaped space, which should maximize the overall size. These are all based on leaked CAD renderings, so majority of like the main components and the sizing for case manufacturers have already been confirmed, and we're very confident that it's going to be that way. A lot of times the leaks can just be very ugly, but I think from what we see, I'm very confident that the iPhone 12 Pro is going to look amazing. I personally prefer fully flat displays, and I like the flat edges as well. It just makes it easier to grip without a case, and I think the iPhone 5 line was the best design that Apple had done at the time. On the topic of displays though, I think the most exciting thing is that this phone is going to have a 120Hz ProMotion refresh rate like we've seen on the iPad for a few years. And a lot of phones nowadays in the Android side have 90Hz, 120Hz, and I love it. And I've been waiting for Apple to do that, and this year it looks like we're going to see it. The other question though is whether or not this phone is going to have a mini LED display that is being rumored for the MacBooks and the iPad, which has many of the benefits of OLED that they're currently using, but also many advantages as well. And that includes a brighter display, a thinner panel, which would give it more space for the battery and also factor in the reduction in thickness of the overall phone, but also even better colors and just in general a better display experience. So I personally think the 120Hz ProMotion paired with the display technology of mini LED being in this iPhone 12 Pro would be a huge improvement. Another great change that we're expecting though is that the notch size is going to be reduced. Right now the iPhone definitely has a larger notch, but with reason. It has the ambient light sensors as well as the Face ID, infrared cameras, and everything that is all packed into the space at the top. And although Face ID is the best biometric face sensor on any phone right now, it does take up a lot of space, and I don't really like that you can't see the battery percentage and the fact that you have to kind of just scroll down from the narrow spot. I've gotten really used to it, but we've been wishing for a smaller notch for many years, and from what it looks like, it's going to be about the same reminiscence in size of the OnePlus 6. That is very good news considering all the other technologies and sensors are still going to be packed in that space. And with the iPhone 11 Pro Max right now having a screen to body ratio of 83.7, it is about 10% behind from some of the phones that are available on the market. With the iPhone 12 Pro probably using new displays though, it is also likely that we could see the iPhone 12, the cheaper model, having a OLED display as opposed to LCD that we've seen so far. But personally, I don't really have anything against the current LCD displays. You really can't tell a huge difference unless it's side by side, but it would be a nice step up as they've been improving their cheaper models, which is still $700 in the past couple years, with like the secondary camera added last year. So moving on to the chipset, it is going to be the A14 Bionic chip. I think there was no real surprise there, but what we do know is that it is going to be a 5nm chip compared to the 7nm that we see on the entire lineup right now. It is going to be a new chip design entirely, unlike the iPad where Apple kind of just reused the chip and enabled an extra core because of reliability improvements, but it is going to be a smaller and faster chip that also runs more efficient, which is always good to see. With a 120Hz display on the horizon compared to the 60 on the current generation, it is definitely going to consume a lot more power, so that will be a huge jump. And also 5G connectivity for the very first time, and that has sort of been confirmed by the larger antenna design that we've kind of seen on some of the leaked images and renderings. So when it comes to battery life, I will say I've had a great experience after 6 months on the iPhone 11 Pro Max, and I use my phone for about 10 hours of screen on time per day, and previously I wasn't able to get even to like 2 p.m. during the day. I'd have to charge it up, but on the 11 Pro Max it has been great, and that is thanks to a 3969 mAh battery. But on the next generation iPhone, we do expect to see a 10% increase in size to 4400 mAh, and that is thanks to just more surface area and space that the battery has on the inside, even though it is going to be thinner. Even though that might sound like a big improvement, 120Hz displays, if that rumor is true, does take up quite a bit more power, and that is sort of why Apple hasn't done it in the previous years. So I do expect the iPhone 12 Pro Max to have the same battery life as the 11 Pro Max, but some optimizations have been made both in terms of the processor and also the size of the battery to get you that same battery life. I also really hope for the very first time we're going to see reverse wireless charging. That way you can charge your AirPods or another phone as well. The smaller model, like the 5.4 inch, is expected to have a 2800 mAh battery and a 3150 on the 6.1. So in terms of the camera, we don't really know that much about the details right now. And with the iPhone SE, it was kind of up in the air. I thought it was going to be the same camera as like the iPhone 10 or the iPhone 11, but they ended up putting the same camera as the 8 with optimizations thanks to the A13. So this year, I do expect to possibly see a higher resolution on the iPhone 12, and that could potentially be like a 64 megapixel sensor that has been down to a 12 to just give it the amount of detail that competing Android phones have right now. Apple has never really been about the megapixel or resolution game because the computers they're putting out in 2020 still have 720p webcams, but I don't think it's going to be anything like 108 megapixels as we see on the Samsung Galaxy S20 line. I think with like the optimizations made in the camera and the processing like we see on the iPhone 11 Pro, it is one of the better cameras on the market, if not one of the best in terms of the HDR and dynamic range performance, but where it is behind on is when you crop into the image and want to reframe it, and I feel like that is going to be an area that Apple is going to try and pinpoint, and at least I hope they do. The LiDAR sensor that we are almost sure to see uses laser data from surrounding objects indoor and outdoors from up to 5 meters away to give a depth image that will really assist with the portrait mode photos, because even though optimization in phones has gotten very, very good and portrait images look awesome, nothing's really going to beat the hardware assistance that we're going to see on more phones nowadays. I think some other improvements to expect is that the telephoto as well as the wide-angle camera is also going to have a lower f-stop just to let in a little bit more light and essentially making it more in line with the current generation main cameras that we see, because those will obviously still always be like the secondary cameras that aren't used as much. So just giving it a little bit of a bump each year in terms of like the aperture and the lens will be enough of an improvement. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and in this video I just want to talk about like some of the schematics, what we expect to see in design, and I'm very excited about the way it looks, but more excited about 120Hz. And I think November just can't come soon enough, especially right now when we're all kind of just sitting around at home. So if you guys enjoy this, make sure you drop a like and leave a comment down below as to what you expect, and I'll see you all in the next video.